The Trinity is the source and generator of unity. So when Paul speaks of church unity, he is not speaking of a task to be achieved or an object of aspiration, but a fact given in the gospel, inherent in the nature of the church and its membership, guaranteed by the one Spirit who inspires it, the one Lord who governs it, and the one God who is the source of its life. What a relief! God, in God's wise wisdom, didn't leave it up to us to establish the shape and character of oneness. The Trinity already created it and guarantees our place in it. One of the characteristics of the Trinity that pertains directly to Paul's instructions in this text is sometimes called mutuality or mutual submission. In the relationship that is the Trinity, Father, Son, and Spirit are equally divine, and in their perichoresis, their divine dance, each are submitted to the others in joyful communion. One author puts it this way: there is no egocentricity within the Godhead, nothing that is self-serving or self-seeking. Mutuality is a Trinitarian way of being that the people of the Jesus way are invited into. Step into reality, says Paul, and do so in mutual submission to one another, in humility and gentleness, with patience, as the members of the Trinity do. You know, something about realizing that unity already exists, that you and I are not required to create it, feels like a relief to me. I imagine the unity of the Trinity sort of like a waterfall, constantly flowing, dynamic and generative, bringing life to everything it touches, smoothing out the rough-edged rocks in its path. The only maintenance that the waterfall requires of you and I is that we enjoy it, play in it, come back again and again to be part of it. Maybe keep the banks around it clear of garbage and debris. Take photos and share them with others. Make it our spot and invite others there to hang out, even when they're getting on our nerves, to bask in its beauty and feel the spray on our cheeks. We have unhindered access to it, but we do nothing to make the water flow. It's already there and abundant. Paul difference, it seems, is essential to God. So, how do we navigate difference while maintaining unity? Isn't that the million-dollar question? The counterpoint to mutual submission, in my view, is something called self-differentiation. Now, I'm not a mental health professional of any kind, so please feel free to test this out with the experts. But if you've hung around a psychologist, a counselor, or therapist in your life, you've likely encountered this term. Self-differentiation involves being able to possess and identify your own thoughts and feelings and distinguish them from others. It's a process of not losing connection to self while holding a deep connection to others, including those you love whose views may differ from yours. Self-differentiation is all about maintaining a sense of ourselves as distinct from the thoughts, needs, emotions, and beliefs of others, while staying deeply connected to them. This is what allows us to navigate tough and intense conversations with others, to withstand pressure from others to conform, and to remain connected to someone or our community of someone's amidst discomfort, negative emotions, and disagreement. As well-differentiated people, we are able to choose a response rather than giving in to a reaction. One theologian I love describes this process of self-differentiation as learning to be at home with oneself. She writes, "Maintaining this balance is difficult. It demands acceptance of who one is at the deepest level. One must be at home with oneself. A conversion of the heart and acceptance of ourselves as both loved and limited is needed. At home with myself, I am reminded that I both matter as a unique individual and am called to participate in the common unity of the Trinity, giving and receiving in mutual submission. From that solid self, I'm not so busy pushing away that I can't choose to show up for others, even if it costs me. And I'm also not so busy trying to fuse or merge with others that I can't choose myself and God's grace at work in me. The grace gift of difference makes it onto the radar in Paul's encouraging plea to his listeners. After all, bringing a self into the community is necessary. Claiming a self that can be offered to God and which can receive Christ's grace gift for the building up of the body is the thing. We don't have to disappear in order to be in the unity dance of the Trinity. Difference creates tension, but perhaps it's a tension we can learn to embrace simply as evidence that we're connected. Self-differentiation is not about putting myself first and others second. It isn't the opposite of humility or mutuality. In fact, for true mutuality to thrive, a solid self is imperative. Differentiated unity makes sure that personhood is not forfeited in the process of community building, making room for communion between self, God, and others, a reality that is perfectly displayed in the community of the Trinity.
Another invitation to help you lean into community this week is to practice intercessory prayer. Whoa, looks like Allison isn't the only one who knows some fancy words. As you may know, there are many modes of prayer, and we have explored all kinds of ways to practice prayer over the past few months. Intercessory prayer is a mode of prayer that binds us together in community. The word intercession is a bit of a weird churchy word, but it basically means to intervene on behalf of someone else, to make a petition in the name of another. We actually had a taste of intercessory prayer just last week in the book of Ephesians. Do you remember when Paul said, "I pray that God would strengthen you with power through his Spirit"? Paul is making an appeal to God on behalf of the people in Ephesus. We do this a lot in church life. This is a familiar mode of prayer for many of us. But if you're new to the ways of Jesus or the idea of prayer is new to you, no worries. This is a very simple way to pray, and you're invited to give it a try this week. Here's a simple way to approach this. First, just take a moment to think about the people in your life, your family, your coworkers, your friends, and amidst the categories that come to mind, consider the people who are a part of your spiritual community. For some of you, that might be automatic because you're part of a home church, or you have a close circle of friends from our church community. Maybe for some of you, that's not so automatic. That's okay. To get started, simply think about people who you have been connected with through your church life. Maybe it's someone you used to connect with in the lobby. Maybe you could name one of the pastors that you've been connected with. Or maybe there's someone whose name you just can't quite remember. You know, like that lovely couple who used to greet you with a warm smile as you arrived on Sundays. Their names are Jack and Billy, by the way. Or that friendly young woman who served you at the cafe. That's Michaela. Or maybe you're thinking about that guy who played guitar and he was always bouncing back and forth on his toes. That's Nathan. Do your best to come up with a little list and simply just sit with those names. Maybe you could start by choosing one name per day. Just consider, what ways can you ask for God's help on their behalf?